Welcome back to my channel. So today I'm just continuing on my series hashtag my skin story, and previously you guys know first 3 episodes was a collaboration with Paula's Choice Singapore, but today we'll be featuring another brand. And I know it's been a substantial amount of time since my previous skincare routine, which basically talked about how my skin has improved by incorporating a targeted regime. Especially now that I'm turning 24, things are starting to show for itself in terms of speed of recovery, and also just things aren't as quick to return back to its normal state as it was previously. So I've been exploring different mediums to actually deal with it, and also things like dark spots. As I grow older, I feel like they don't recover as quickly, so I really wanted targeted treatments that do help these areas, especially with my skin anxiety. And mentioning that, today's episode will be focusing on my skin story regarding my skin anxiety. And I know this is a topic that, you know, probably many of you will be like, what are you talking about? Is it another way of saying that you are a compulsive picker, or you know, you compulsively like to squeeze your pimples? And yes, that is the result of skin anxiety, but today I'm just going to share with you more about what it is and how it has kind of incorporated or creeped into my life and has become the bane of my existence. And basically why I still have recurring scarring issues is predominantly, I would say like 75% due to my skin anxiety, and it's something that I'm dealing with and something that I just constantly have to adapt to in my routine. And yeah, without rambling too much, today's episode is featuring IDS, Innovative Dermalogical Solutions Skincare. And basically I have, you know, had the luxury and had the privilege to work with in combating these things regarding my skin anxiety, and also just finding a routine that's really simple, and also exploring new products that deliver even more beneficial results to my everyday routine. All these products that I'm going to talk about today basically have helped my skin, but it's not something that I encourage you to change out your whole entire routine. You guys know it was Paula's Choice. Some of these products actually have crept into the Paula's Choice routine, so I'm kind of now alternating between Paula's Choice and IDS as well. So I'm just going to show you everything that I've been using and testing out from IDS, but let's just start off with a very quick story time and mainly the reason why I wanted to do this video. Okay, so what is skin anxiety? You can basically take out the first chunk of that phrase, skin, and just focus on anxiety. Just like any other anxiety, it's a feeling of uncertainty of the outcome, uncertainty of how you feel about something, just the constant mode or medium of being worried and in that state of mind of being worried. And if you guys do like personality tests, which I highly recommend, there's this one innate character personality test which is called Enneagram. If you guys have heard about it, it's so good and it's so accurate. But basically I'm a loyalist, and it just talks a lot about, you know, being a very anxious person and just wanting to remain loyal and just feel loved and accepted. And when things like that don't fuel me or develop my heart to want to grow in that direction, I just generally get very anxious. And that's basically the root cause of my skin anxiety. You guys can read more about my type in the description box, but if you want to do the personality test or the character development test, you can check it out here. This is the link. Stemming from that, a lot of my stresses and the way I act out in terms of behaving to that anxiousness is to pick my face. And that's where the skin part of skin anxiety comes in. And I'm not sure if there are other people out there like me, but I'm definitely sure the spectrum of anxiety disorder is not just about the degree, but the variance in it. There's just many different kinds of anxiety disorders, and the way people deal with it, especially if you're not treated. For me, I'm privileged enough to say that, you know, I do not have a severe disorder per se, but I do have a anxiety complex that is, I would say, lower than the normal, but it's still something that I act out in terms of, you know, relating to my skin insecurities, and it's been constant forever. And I've just naturally been born with skin that's a little bit more sensitive, a little bit more reactive, and breaks out easily. And that's something that is a triggering point for me, that, you know, perhaps the way I look, the way I feel, the way people look at me or perceive me basically will prevent me from being loved or accepted, and that gives me anxiety. And yes, I pick my face. Example of that would be during the hormonal cycles, especially pre the menstrual cycle. I have cystic acne. I have one here today. This one already subsided, but it was really big. A lot of this kind of, you know, scarring issues, I would say that most of it is because I squeeze my pimples, I scratch at myself, I just refuse to have a bumpy surface on my skin even though I constantly develop them. I pick and scratch and I squeeze and I do everything I can so that, you know, it reaches a state where when I touch my skin, I don't feel like it's super bumpy. And after I do that, naturally with any scratches, any scabs, you develop scars. And basically all these are remnants of really bad scarring. And in my uni days, as I mentioned in my first skin story, the first 3 episodes, I talk about how the exposure to the sun when I was in Australia really caused a lot of the discoloration that has never really bounced back. You know, I put sunscreen, it delays further discoloration, but it never goes away. And it really stemmed from the fact that, you know, either school was really stressing me out or being away from home really stressed me out. I just squeezed and squeezed and scratched and scratched, and I lived alone, so, you know, I was free to do whatever I wanted basically. So what I'm trying to say about skin anxiety is the way you choose to cope with it can be many ways, and for me, I chose to damage my skin and compromise my skin barrier, which is why a lot of the products that I'm going to tell you today actually helps with soothing, helping the recovery speed, and also just providing a very neutral medium so that my skin doesn't further break out. As you know, if you aggravate your skin with physical mediums, whether it be using a tool, it be using your fingers, and you know, when your fingers are dirty, it just causes a lot of inflammation. That is something that will, no matter what, will cause your skin harm. And for me, mental well-being is something that I'm trying to work on. I would say it's something that I haven't worked on ever, and trying to take a step in the right direction despite being so busy is something that I want to achieve this year. And I find that if I work on my heart, if I work on my mind, you know, how I choose to deal with my outward appearance will slowly not be a main priority. I won't be constantly scratching my face and thinking about how ugly I look, how unpresentable I look. So yeah, that's just a bit of sharing for my New Year goals. I really do want to work on being more conscious of the thoughts that I'm putting into my head and what I am using as the standard of beauty. And yeah, I won't ramble on too much, but so most of you will probably be here to hear my recommendations about IDS, and in the title you see it's gonna be a review as well. So if you guys want to hear more about my story, more about my experience, I will definitely be sharing a lot more throughout this My Skin Story series, so stay tuned. But let's just move on over to the brand review on IDS Skincare.